So the name of my show is Mafia Unveiled, John and Gene Show. But today I'm going to broadcast a special edition, and I want to speak about what's going on in America in this country and the demise of this country from my point of view, a point of view of an ex-gangster. For the people that don't know me, somebody who was involved in a lot of violence, understands the streets, the drug business, murder, the use of force, the American government, the tools they're using against the people of this country, no different than what I spoke about of the tools of the mafia. They're using the same kind of manipulative tools that we used against the public to enrich ourselves. But the government's doing it on a much larger scale. And this isn't about politics. It doesn't matter. Most people know where I stand politically. I believe in individual rights. I believe in the freedoms of this country. I love this country. And this country is the greatest in the world. And for the people who don't like this country and are protesting all over the streets in this country, should find their way back to their countries that they're of origin. I love Albania. I'm Albanian. I go back to my country. I'm very patriotic with my country. I love where I come from. I love our heritage. And I love this country. And there's no greater nation than this country around the world. And I've traveled everywhere. That being said, yesterday I was listening to the impeachment hearings of Mayorkas, who's head of our border. And I listened to a man named Dan Goldman that was discussing and ridiculing a woman that just lost her child. She's an angel's mom. And for the people that don't know what that means, there's Fathers Against Fentanyl. There's a black poster child ran by D. Gillen that I've come to know. Unfortunately, I'm one of the parents that lost their daughter a year and a half ago to murder, poisoning, fentanyl that's being brought into this country because it became a $35 billion industry a year. And our government is allowing it. And I look at bullies like Dan Goldman trying to dress down a grieving mother that wasn't even hardly able to speak because of the devastation of losing her daughter. This week, a friend of mine, Michelle, who lost her brother, had a woman, Christine, reach out to me who lost her son, Austin, at I believe 20 years old, on his way to college, sitting in a car and is dead. It wasn't a mob hit, because if it was a mob hit, when I talk about mob hits and I talk about the genre I speak about, I give 100, 200, sometimes up to 2 million when I spoke about Epstein on one of my last shows. People are interested. But there's such disconnect from society to understand that we're losing our children. Since 2017 till now, we've probably lost close to 1 million kids. The biggest cause of death in this country from children from 18 to young adults to adults in 42 years old, I believe, is to opioids and fentanyl. It's not a typical drug where a kid's seeking it. And here's the issue, that our government stands up, and I don't care if they happen to be Democratic Party right now running this country with a Democratic president who has a son, Hunter Biden, who's actually a drug addict, has issues with crack and different things back and forth. So he should, as a president, know better than anybody that his son could fall victim to this like anybody else. But yet they are more concerned about financing other countries' borders and not financing billions of dollars to the border of this country. They're not implementing any serious sanctions against Mexico for being helpful to these cartels that are bringing fentanyl across. They aren't doing anything to stop the crisis, but actually encouraging illegal immigrants to come into this country, which we all know, not vetting them, terrorists coming across our border, probably bringing dirty bombs, and eventually that'll be the next hit in this country. Besides the fentanyl killing our families and our children, it'll be a bomb or it'll be an act of terrorism, whether it's an airplane or whether it's a group of 50 or 100 guys getting together because they're coming in that kind of capacity. To be able to put down a small army and go from city to city until we could get them under control if they want to do that, just using handguns. Why? And the question is, why is our government allowing this? Why are we leaving almost 1 million homeless Americans on the street without health care, without mental care, housing these illegal immigrants for free? You have the Massachusetts governor just asked to house immigrants in their house. I never heard them come out publicly and speak about housing veterans that are homeless in their house, housing American children in their house that are homeless, housing the mentally ill in their house. But yet they don't house them. They're not on Martha's Vineyard. They're not in the governor's mansion. They're not out in the Hamptons. They're not out in any of these rich areas. They're not at Joe Biden's house or next door to his house or in Obama's house or any other Democrat that speaks out and speaks for illegal immigrants. Most of us come from other countries over the years, but we came here legally through the system. And while we allow people to come through this border, being killed, being raped, being trafficked as children, we don't know where our kids are. We don't know where these illegal kids that are coming in without parents. No one's checking if they're their real parents. No one cares. The abuse is not humanitarian to have them in tents, defecating all over the streets. Mental ill patients that are coming into this country, gang members from other jails. And I know because I used to be involved in the street. So I'm not that mother that Dan Goldman yesterday during those hearings tried to dress down and abuse a grieving mother. What kind of human being has the audacity to do that to that grieving mother, father? He has no idea or clue until that happens to him. And the problem is these politicians think they're above that. But they can also lose their children, their family members, just like the rest of us have. There's a war in this country, and they're allowing it to continue. They're talking about other countries and funding Ukraine, and you never hear that nonstop. But nobody's talking about funding our children, funding the ability for the National Guard to be on that border, to put that wall and continue to put that wall up. And if you want to allow illegal immigrants in this country, you should make sure before they come in, they're vetted, they're disease-free, you know who they are, they're fingerprinted, every single one of them. And then there should be a position where you know where they're going. Do they have employment? Because at this point, they're allowing this war to continue, allowing our kids to be murdered. When someone looks for an Oxycontin, when someone looks for a Percocet, when someone looks for an Adderall, when someone's snorting cocaine, smoking a joint, marijuana, or taking a pill to relax, a Xanax, and it's laced with fentanyl, it's intentional murder. And when you have Mayorkas that goes up there, blatantly lies in front of Congress on the floor with disregard for every one of these families, their children that are being murdered, he's part of that. He has a big, big, big weight on his shoulder that he is complicit with these murders. Every one of these bodies and every one of our kids that we buried, he is part of their murder. It's not an OD, and when I hear the news media talking about, these kids are ODing in this country, around the world, no, they're not. They're not smoking a joint and dying. They're dying from fentanyl being laced in that marijuana without them knowing. They're not a young boy, Austin, on his way to school with a life ahead of him, a good kid. that left a brother and a mother that's grieving, that they'll never change. These heartless politicians that work for us, for this country, and sit here year after year and do nothing about it and tell us they don't have the funds when they use their funds, specifically in the last omnibus bill, was to process them faster into this country. And the promise that they're sending to these other countries that you will house them for free, you will give them 2 years of free housing, you will give them Xboxes, and you'll give them telephones, and you will give them the American dream. Of course, they're going to come in droves. We have close to anywhere from 7 to 10 million that came in this country right now as it is today. And now you have the DOJ, Joe Biden, and the rest fighting Governor Abbott to try to take down the razor wire that he's putting up to try to stop this madness. You have sanctuary cities that are on television crying about being bussed. People that are illegal after they're the ones that okayed it, funded, bragged about being sanctuary cities, wanted to entice them to come to their cities. Well, you have them. And while you're kicking veterans out of housing and you're kicking students out of schools and you're housing with illegal immigrants, tell me the damage you're doing to Americans. Tell me the damage you're doing to those children that are not getting educated properly. Where is all the money and the funding? Where is it going? Why is $450 billion a year going to illegal immigrants and not to the infrastructure of our cities, not to the inner cities, not to healthcare, to education? You're overwhelming our hospitals and healthcare systems. Why? What is your bottom line? The bottom line for the people that don't understand is it's an attack on the next generation of kids. This is a deliberate attack to kill the confidence, destroy the lives of minors. You can't buy a cigarette at 16 years old. You can't have alcohol. You can't go to the armed forces without having a signature of your parent. But yet they want to try to take the rights of parents away from their children as babies and try to manipulate their minds with ideologies that are not in the benefit of those kids. I'd be all for it if it was a benefit of those kids. It's just a manipulation of to manipulate those kids away from their parents and structure so they can brainwash them in any direction that may be. That's why they're bringing these illegal immigrants in, because they're trying to lose the identity of this country. Last week, there was an interview by a quarterback from the Texans after they won a victory. And he thanked God, and he appreciated Jesus Christ, and he respected our Lord. NBC did not play that interview. They cut that part out. It's an attack on religion. It's an attack on family values. It's an attack on the safety of our children. It's an attack on our veterans. It's an attack on our nation. And the reason for these attacks is because they want to hold power in their new world order. And our kids are just another number that they look at as a means to their end. And the means to their end is for power, financial benefit, and control. When is the rest of the world going to wake up with this disconnect and understand? Almost going on 2 years, my daughter died. But hopefully in the next year or 2 years, it's not your child, but it could be. This is not something that's random where a couple of kids are dying a year. It's hundreds and 100,000 and better a year. In my estimate, not the government's estimate, it's closer to 200,000. For the people that want to know why, because in autopsies, unless they're ordered, it's very, very hard to know that they died from fentanyl. If you have blood tests while they're in the hospital and they're on life support, sometimes that doesn't even show. As much blood as they take, it doesn't show. It's a very difficult test. I've done shows with a very good friend of mine, Dr. Genti Tuskesi, who's a neurosurgeon, and he speaks about on a medical end. I've done many shows on this, and I try to be as public as I can because I have a voice. But the people around the world need to spread this message. This isn't a political message. It's a message that we must stop our politicians from stealing our money, sending our money to other countries to control their borders and allow them to continually, blatantly, intentionally lie to us. They're trying to stop and control the border. It's politics for them. It's our children's lives for us. God bless you all. God bless your families. I'm really sorry for the loss of victims like Austin. And I have dozens of messages, unfortunately, every day that I try to answer of parents and brothers and sisters that get in touch with me and ask me to speak out for them. And groups and organizations like the Black Poster Child and Dee Gillen and the work that she's done after losing her child is incredible. Fathers Against Fentanyl, Moms of Angels, and there's so many other organizations, the veterans in this country that fought for this great country. We all need to come out and speak out against this propaganda media that doesn't do the right thing and forget about what side of the aisle on. This is not a communist country. Well, it kind of became a communist country because our media will not report the things that we're saying. Our media doesn't say anything about when a young man, professional football player, talks about and praises Jesus Christ, and they cut it out. Our media doesn't talk about how a representative, Democratic Representative Goldman, has the audacity when a woman is devastated, losing her child, to try to be argumentative with her. I can't even imagine what kind of human being could do that to that woman on television for his position in that Democratic Party for $1 bill. It disgusts me to watch how a low-life, garbage piece of shit could ever do that to a woman that just lost their child. I look back and I talk about the American Mafia, which people know I talk against. I'm against that life from a lot of years now. I've been very verbal about it. But, and this is a big but, they're all patriotic. They don't go against this country. 99.9% of the guys I knew would never speak against this country. They break laws for financial gain, but they don't break laws that destroy this country and overtake this country like our own government is doing now. They're concerned now. If you look around the world, there's wars. There's Jordan firing missiles. There's Iran firing missiles at Pakistan. Pakistan firing missiles at Iran. You have the Israel conflict. You have the Russia-Ukraine conflict. How can anybody in their right mind not understand they're slow walking us into World War III? And at the same time, they're destroying the confidence and the lives of our children. The money that they're spending across every other border, the World Health Organization, which is a joke, it's corrupt. United Nations, corrupt. This is a money grab by our politicians. They need to have term limits. People need to come out and understand and speak. And if you don't come out now and you leave that fight alone, and we don't fight for our children and next generation, you're going to leave that fight for our kids and our grandkids. As a father, as a mother, as parents, as grandparents, we need to speak out. And we need to put down this Democratic Party for what they're doing, which I call the Communist Party. They're propaganding our news. No matter which way you think, we should have free news and media and speech. And when we lose that, we are no different than the third world countries of Venezuela, Cuba, or communist China. Speak out against what's going on with fentanyl. We have to stop it. It has not been a priority like it should be. Nothing is going to change. That border is completely open for fentanyl and terrorism. And that should be everybody's number one main concern besides the economy. But we're losing our children through this war of fentanyl. We're losing them every second while I'm on here. There's another child dying. God bless everybody, and please pass this message. And everybody that's fighting fentanyl and all the parents, my condolences to you and your families. God bless you all. Thank you.